Has Christianity been a good thing? This was the question I was asked earlier this week by somebody, probably in the hope of embarrassing me and putting me on the spot. And here's a more considered answer than I managed to give. I remember saying that it is part of Western identity, and the question came back, yes, but has it been a good thing? And I can't actually remember what I said, and I guess I'm talking to you now because I'm trying to say what I think I should have said when I was asked that question. So just because Christianity happened, was it a good thing? But what if it was a bad thing? And this reminded me of a quote from Shakespeare in Hamlet, who said, "Nothing is good or bad, only thinking makes it so." What does this mean? I think it means that something happens. No. Obviously, if a storm blew your house down, that would be a bad thing. I think Hamlet might have meant that if you had stolen something, was it a good thing? It's only when you think of the fact that you're not supposed to steal that you think it's a bad thing. But if you were an animal, a non-human animal, I mean, living in the law of the jungle, you wouldn't think of it as being a bad thing at all. You would think, great, I got this piece of food from some other animal who was weaker and smaller than me, and I didn't have to hunt for it, and I'm going to enjoy it. It's a good thing for me. And of course the other animal that you had robbed its food from wouldn't think it was a good thing, but who cares? So what is this to do with Christianity? I'm trying to relate the fact that nothing is good or bad, and only thinking about it makes it one way or the other, and some people might have a different opinion about whether you should enjoy your ill-gotten gains. So, with regard to Christianity, I mean, obviously, if Christianity was a good thing, then obviously it was a good thing. But what if it was a bad thing? And it is indeed idolatry and blasphemy, as I say, it is. Can that be ever a good thing? To be known to have a religion that is associated with people who don't even know that it's idolatry and blasphemy. And my answer is this. Something bad happened to you. I mean, on the assumption that Christianity is a bad thing, we can reason in this way and think, something bad happened to you, is that a good or bad thing? Some people might say, well, obviously, if it's a bad thing, then it's a bad thing. If you suffer loss or injury, it must be a bad thing. But I think we can all think of examples when something that hurt us at the time helped us later. So if we were to I suppose I'm thinking of a child now, told not to do something and being caught by its parent, disobeying the parent and doing the thing the parent told it not to do, and the parent punished the child, and obviously at the time the child would be crying because it was punished or smacked or whatever, and but it would know not to do the thing again, and doing the bad thing and being punished for it taught the child not to do the bad thing again, and prevented problems in the future from doing this bad thing, such as telling lies or stealing things. So it isn't necessarily a bad thing, even if a bad thing were to happen to you, because you, the bad thing that caused you punishment would prevent you from suffering something even worse had you repeated the error again. So this would be the correct attitude towards mistakes. If we make mistakes, we should learn from them and avoid something worse. So on the question of Christianity, with its global idolatry and a global blasphemy and the global promotion of global homo, obviously it's a bad thing, as I'm sure people who don't approve of this sort of thing would think. And I am saying we can easily understand what the problem is. My view is that interpreting all the bad things that are happening in the world as being cursed by God. This has been my theme for some time now, about Jews, Christians and Muslims being cursed by God. I don't think any of them are going to say, oh no, we're certainly not cursed, we are blessed, we are happy as we are, we happy Jews, we happy Christians, we happy Muslims, and they can't say that because of the situation in Israel, in the Hamas and Israel war. So none of the Abrahamic religions can say they're having a good time, and even the non-Abrahamic religions of Hinduism and Buddhism, well, they can't say that they're doing better than Christians, because than Christians with their global empire, because they're not as powerful as Christians, and if Christians start another world war, it would affect them in wherever they are, where they practice Hinduism and Buddhism, because a world war is, well, as a term implies, it would affect everyone adversely, globally. So what would be a good thing? What would be the good thing about being cursed and punished by God? At this stage, I would say, before World War III breaks out, that it could, if enough of us repented, cause us to change our ways, correct ourselves, and do a U-turn on our road to perdition. We will turn away after we have corrected ourselves, having discovered that we are going the wrong way. So suffering has its purpose in that it tells us that we are doing something wrong, and the pain, the suffering is obviously intended as a warning. So even as we know that we don't want to suffer pain, we already we have already deduced its purpose. It is to save us from something worse. So, for Westerners whose religion is associated with Christianity, they are coming up to a crossroad of whether to continue on their way to perdition or correct themselves. So I think the situation can be analysed, understood, resolved by if they can bring themselves to accept that suffering is punishment for sin, and if they accept this premise, then they are more likely to correct themselves. Obviously, some smart aleck will say, "Oh, well, I'm not suffering; I'm having a good time, and I don't accept the concept of sin." But whether you accept it or not, the purpose of the concept is clear. It's putting under the category of sin all the things that you shouldn't do. And I can think of 7 deadly sins: anger, envy, pride, lust, greed, gluttony, and sloth. So those are the 7 things that we shouldn't do. And if we do it, eventually we will start suffering as individuals and societies. And since the liberal order is basically atheist, peoples under the liberal order will not be thinking in terms of sin, which doesn't mean to say that the consequence of doing forbidden things can be avoided just because you don't know about them. There will be consequences if you do things. And a good example is, well, if you touch fire as a child, maybe you don't know that fire is hot, and you put your finger in a flame. Well, obviously it's going to hurt you, but then you'll know not to do it again, hopefully. So the purpose of sin is to tell you, to bundle up a list of behaviours and tell people you're not supposed to do that, and if you do, nothing's going to happen to you immediately, but it'll be bad and you will suffer eventually. Obviously, if you don't believe in God, then you think, oh, I got away with it, nothing happened to me when I was still alive. But we don't know. We don't know if there is an afterlife. Lots of people seem to talk about it a lot and use the concept of the afterlife to incentivize each other and threaten each other. And even if it doesn't exist, even if the afterlife doesn't exist, it is a useful concept to motivate people to behave well and discourage them from being bad. So, if something bad happens to you, if you were tricked or had to endure, some form of torture, abuse, etc., then you should learn from it and learn the lessons of history. But what I fear is that Westerners just don't understand themselves anymore, because they don't learn any proper history, and the history that they learn is just so stupid and so disjointed that you're surprised that they have any kind of identity at all. And so what happens now is that they're always complaining about Jews and Muslims because, at least if you're Jew, if you're Muslim, you have a story about, story about the Jews, story about the Muslims, and you have a kind of identity that is over and above the national identity that you would have living in your country. And if you don't take an interest in history, if your history is not taught to you properly because your government wants to hide all these mistakes it made, then you won't understand it yourself at all, and you won't understand your government, and you just won't understand the identity of your civilization. This can be easily remedied by, understanding what I'm saying and putting your best foot forward and all that. So I'm basically saying mistakes can be learned from, mistakes that lead to suffering can be learned from, and any honest, reasonable and moral person would want to think of themselves as people capable of acknowledging mistakes and learning from them. Obviously, if you can't admit your mistakes, then you won't learn from them, will you? So I see there are a few people in the chat. Hello. Luke Croft, Christine Ramsey, Jay Walker. Thank you for calling me Madam Core. It's something I've noticed recently, a lot of people calling me that. That's a sign of respect, and I think that's quite sweet. So thank you for that. I never thought I'd grow that old to be called Madam by, all kinds of people, but I will accept it in as it is, and I guess there are certain advantages to getting older and no longer being called Miss. Now, Christine Ramsey says Christianity is superior to Islam. Now, why would she say that? How could she know? If I were making a case out for her, I would say, well, Christianity has had 3 global empires, no other religion has had 3 global empires, and therefore Christianity is number 1. I'm sure that's how she thinks. But the interesting thing about these Christians and these Muslims is that they always feel, because they're mostly anti-Semites, they always feel that Jews have won over them. So even though Jews are few in number and often persecuted and otherized, Gentiles always think of them as being higher status and doing better than them. So is this something that you would want? Would you like to be envied and therefore hated? I know a man who wanted his wife to dress in revealing clothing because he wanted to make other men jealous of him. It's not what I would do if I were a husband, because that would be kind of encouraging. That would be a form of ostentatious display, and usually these things end in tears, because if you ostentatiously display your wealth, you might get stolen from, and the same thing applies to wives. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that while it is true that every cloud always has a silver lining, it is also true that every silver lining has a cloud. And, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other in it. So back to the question of Christine Ramsey. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. She claims that Christianity is superior to Islam because it has three global empires. But what if these three global empires start 3 world wars? Then it's not so good then, is it, Christine? It's not so good. And assuming World War III breaks out and there are some survivors, I think white Christian people will be kicked around a lot by the rest of the world for having started 3 world wars. So, it's not like you can even go anywhere else and, get a job as an immigrant in the non-Western parts of the world. You would basically be kicked around. So, I don't think it would be a good thing for World War III to break out, and it wouldn't be good for the reputation of Christians and Christianity to have started 3 world wars. So it is certainly debatable that Christianity is superior to Islam. So this is just something you might want to note, those of you who are Christian chauvinists. Luke Croft says, Claire, you should endorse the coming world state. What do you mean? Do you mean the global empire? I'm not sure what you mean. We already know that there is a global empire, and there have been, 2 previous ones. There was the British Empire and there was the Spanish Empire. The great thing about empires is that you do enjoy better transport and better communication, and ideas spread far more quickly in an empire than, in different disparate nation states speaking their own language, etc. So we just have to make the best of the situation. There's still lots of pleasure to be derived from being alive in this time, even though people are permanently complaining about their government, immigrants, etc. And of course the looming horror of World War III. But we certainly live in interesting times, and we have a lot to consider, particularly Westerners who don't have a religion, or who are very confused about their identity. And of course you would expect them to be confused about their identity if they don't have a religion. And I know they're not sure if they want one. That's a thing. That, all those rules that they'd have to follow. The thing is that they're never going to be happy. You give people what they want and they want the next thing, or they complain about the thing you gave them. And I guess that's what Shakespeare might have meant when he said, nothing is good or bad, only thinking makes it so. So I suppose we should just look on the bright side of life, as the song goes in Monty Python's Life of Brian. So I have to, I feel I have to say things to confused Westerners who don't know if they want a religion or not. I'm saying you do want a religion, you need a religion, or you will never make your ruling classes accountable, and you will, and you won't be able to protect yourselves from the criminal elements of your society. So you need a religion, and the obvious religion is Islam. And if you're a bit scared of Islam, there's always the Islam light of secular Quranism, and you should rejoice. You should rejoice that you actually have a solution to hand that you could use and talk about and praise. You should rejoice that you know me and understand my ideas and can easily tell others about my wonderful ideas and ask them why they shouldn't be implemented. This is what you should be doing. But I just don't know with you lot. Luke Croft says that I could talk for 12 hours into a microphone. I think I did do it for 3 hours. I did a 3-hour monologue, but it might be gone now. I don't know. So really, I'm saying that the solution to all your problems is to hand. It's already there. You don't even have to go and look for it. And you shouldn't be downhearted, and you should be talking about, this wonderful solution, this great system that will allow you to solve your problem so quickly and in a way that is explicable, meaning easy to explain and easy to repeat when you get when you get somebody to understand the applications of secular Quranism and how it would benefit you and your society. And you can it could be considered a Western achievement were the West to adopt it. It could even be my achievement in my lifetime if it were adopted within my lifetime. And then you can all say, oh, we know her. We knew her when she was just a YouTuber, and look at her now. So this is something to think about. I didn't really have a chance to make all these points clear. If Christianity was a bad thing and it was a terrible mistake, then it's something that Westerners could learn from and also teach the world to not do. Not do what? Not practice idolatry. Because if Westerners were to put their hands up and say, it's us, we are a warning to history about the harm of idolatry, then you could go down in history as being the good guys who recognised their mistake and repented in time, rather than the people who doubled down and blew the world up in World War III. I trust I have made my point clear enough. Thank you all for your attention.